Step into the shadows of the United Kingdom, where history whispers tales of cursed objects. If you've ever been gripped by stories of the world's most haunted items, perhaps you've seen our previous exploration, then prepare for a chilling local journey. From an ancient mummy case linked to death to everyday items now tied to tragedy, we unearthed 10 UK objects with unsettling legends. Their stories are so captivating, you won't be able to stop listening. Join us as we delve into the dark history and eerie encounters surrounding these cursed British artifacts. Prepare to be captivated, and perhaps, a little unnerved. Let's begin. 10. The Swansea Devil, Swansea, Wales. The Swansea Devil was a carved wooden figure created in the early 20th century. It was commissioned to sit atop the newly built Ben Evans department store in Swansea. Its initial purpose was purely decorative, intended to be an eye-catching architectural feature for the prominent building. The carving itself was likely a point of local interest and pride before the dramatic events that followed. The curse of the Swansea Devil emerged from a local legend that claimed the figure harbored a malevolent spirit or was somehow linked to misfortune. The most dramatic event that solidified its cursed reputation was the destruction of the neighboring St. Mary's Church by fire in 1941 during World War II. Local folklore attributed the fire to the devil figure, claiming it had finally achieved its sinister goal of destroying the sacred building. This fulfilled prophecy, as it was seen, cemented the devil's status as a cursed object. The primary cursed event is the burning of St. Mary's Church. While there's no factual evidence linking the figure to the fire, the timing and the existing folklore created a powerful narrative. Encounters with the Swansea Devil, which still exists, though not in its original prominent position, often involve a recounting of this dramatic event and a lingering sense of its malevolent influence. 9. The Florence Witch's Stone, Florence, Scotland. The Florence Witch's Stone is a natural boulder located in the town of Florence in Moray, Scotland. Before its association with witchcraft, it was simply a part of the local geological landscape, perhaps a landmark or a place where people gathered. Its existence predates the witch trials and the dark period of persecution in Scottish history. The stone's transformation into a cursed object is directly linked to the grim history of witch trials in Scotland. It is believed to mark the site where individuals accused of witchcraft were executed, often by burning. The stone is said to have been used as a post to which the condemned were tied. This history of suffering and violent death has imbued the stone with a sense of residual negative energy. It's not cursed in the sense of actively causing harm now, but rather in carrying the weight of past injustice and pain. The curse of the Florence Witch's Stone manifests as a feeling of unease, sadness, or even a sense of a malevolent presence for those who visit the site. Some might report feeling cold spots or a general sense of oppression. 8. The Chained Oak, Alton, Staffordshire. The chained oak was simply a mature oak tree growing in the Staffordshire countryside near the Alton Towers estate. It was a natural part of the landscape, providing shelter and shade, and likely went unnoticed in any significant historical context beyond being a landmark in the area. Its existence was tied to the natural rhythms of growth and the local ecosystem. The tree's transformation into a cursed object began with a local legend. The tale goes that an old woman placed a curse on the Earl of Shrewsbury, stating that as each branch of a particular oak tree fell, a member of his family would die. To prevent this, the Earl supposedly ordered the tree to be bound with heavy chains, a futile attempt to defy the curse. This act of chaining the tree is what cemented its place in local folklore as an object linked to death and misfortune. The legend even inspired a ride at the nearby Alton Towers theme park, further perpetuating the story. The cursed events associated with the chained oak are the alleged deaths within the Alton Towers family that supposedly coincided with the breaking of its branches. While specific instances and their correlation might be difficult to verify definitively, the enduring legend itself is the core of its cursed nature. Encounters with the tree often involve a sense of unease and a knowledge of the ominous tale. 7. The Glamis Castle Goblet, Angus, Scotland. Glamis Castle is an ancient and majestic stronghold with deep roots in Scottish history and folklore. A goblet within the castle would have been a significant item, likely used during meals, celebrations, or important ceremonies by the noble families who resided there. Its material, craftsmanship, and any family crests or engravings would speak to its status and the history of the castle itself. Before the alleged curse, it was a symbol of hospitality and tradition within a prominent Scottish seat. The curse associated with a specific goblet at Glamis Castle is shrouded in less concrete detail than some other objects. The legend often speaks generally of a goblet within the castle that brings misfortune or even death to those who drink from it. the specifics of which goblet and the exact nature of the misfortunes can vary in the telling, adding to its mystique. This air of ominous uncertainty contributes to its cursed reputation, playing on the castle's already rich tapestry of ghostly tales and dark secrets. The cursed events linked to the Glamis Castle goblet are the alleged misfortunes or deaths of individuals who drank from it. Due to the more general nature of the legend, specific accounts might be difficult to pinpoint. 6. The Morton Hall Axe, Edinburgh. Morton Hall House was a historic estate near Edinburgh with a long and varied past. The axe would have been a practical tool used for various tasks on the estate, such as chopping wood for fires or other manual labor. It was likely an unremarkable item, one of many implements necessary for the functioning of a large household and its grounds. Its history before the alleged curse is tied to the everyday activities of the estate's inhabitants. The axe's association with misfortune arose after its discovery during the demolition of Morton Hall House. The demolition itself might have unearthed or reminded people of tragic events that had occurred at the property, most notably a devastating fire in the 19th century that resulted in fatalities. The axe, found amidst the remnants of this history, became a tangible link to past suffering. Some believe it absorbed or retained the negative energy of these tragic events, imbuing it with a sense of being cursed. The curse of the Morton Hall axe is less about direct interaction causing immediate misfortune and more about a feeling of unease and a connection to past tragedy. Those who have handled or been near the axe might report feelings of coldness, sadness, or a general sense of foreboding. The demolition itself and the uncovering of the axe become part of the cursed narrative, bringing the past tragedy into the present. 5. The Cawdor Castle Chest, Nairn, Scotland. Cawdor Castle boasts a rich and storied past, famously linked to Shakespeare's Macbeth, though historically inaccurate. The chest in question would have been a functional piece of furniture within the castle, likely used for storage of valuable items, linens, or personal belongings. Its appearance and craftsmanship would reflect the era in which it was made and the status of the family who owned it. Before the chilling legend attached to it, it was simply an item of domestic use within a significant historical residence. The curse of the Cawdor Castle chest revolves around a specific room within the castle. Legend states that anyone who sleeps in the room containing this particular chest will meet an untimely and unfortunate end. This belief has likely been perpetuated through generations of castle inhabitants and local folklore, adding a layer of dark mystique to the ancient building. The chest itself becomes a silent harbinger of doom within the context of this specific chamber. The curse associated with the chest is primarily a foreboding one, rather than a series of documented events directly caused by touching or interacting with the chest itself. The incidents are the alleged untimely deaths of those who dared to sleep in the ill-fated room. While specific names and details of these deaths might be scarce or shrouded in legend, the persistent warning serves as the core of its cursed reputation. 4. A haunted 1960s radio, London dungeon. This unassuming transistor radio likely brought music, news, and entertainment into a home in the 1960s. It would have been a common household item, a source of connection to the wider world and a backdrop to everyday life. Perhaps it played the favorite tunes of a young boy, the same boy whose life would later be touched by tragedy. Before its alleged haunting, it was simply a functional piece of technology, a conduit of sound waves. The radio's history took a somber turn after a tragic farming accident involving a young boy who owned it. In the aftermath, the radio reportedly became a focal point for unusual occurrences. It said that the boy's family believed he used the radio as a means of communication from beyond. This association with grief and the possibility of otherworldly contact is what imbued the radio with its haunted reputation. Its acquisition by the London Dungeon turned it into an exhibit, a tangible object linked to a poignant and potentially paranormal story. The cursed aspect of this radio centers on the reported paranormal activity connected to it. Visitors to the London Dungeon and those who knew its history have allegedly experienced strange phenomena in its vicinity. This includes the radio turning on or off by itself, emitting static or unintelligible whispers when not plugged in, and creating a general feeling of unease or sadness in the area. 3. The Mummified Cat, British Museum. Mummified cats were relatively common in ancient Egypt, serving various purposes. Some were buried as offerings to the goddess Bastet, who was associated with cats, fertility, and protection. Others were beloved household pets mummified upon their death. These mummified felines were treated with a degree of reverence, reflecting the high regard for cats in ancient Egyptian society. The process of mummification was a significant ritual, intended to preserve the animal for the afterlife. The curse associated with mummified cats in a UK context stems more from Victorian superstitions and interpretations than ancient Egyptian beliefs. In the Victorian era, there was a fascination with the occult and the mysterious East. Mummified animals, including cats, became popular curiosities. However, some Victorians also believed that such mummified remains could be imbued with negative energy or even trap the souls of the deceased animals. This belief likely contributed to the idea of the mummified cat as a potentially cursed object. The presence of a replica in the London dungeon further sensationalizes this Victorian-era fear. The curse of the mummified cat is less about specific documented incidents of misfortune and more about a general sense of unease and the lingering Victorian superstition surrounding them. The belief that they could contain trapped souls or malevolent energy creates a sense of dread. Encounters might involve feelings of cold spots, unexplained feelings of sadness or anxiety in their vicinity, or a general unsettling atmosphere. 2. Florence the Cursed Doll, London Dungeon. The details of Florence's origins are less historically grand and more intimately unsettling. She was a vintage doll, likely from the mid-20th century, owned by an individual who eventually brought her to the attention of the London dungeon due to the strange occurrences surrounding her. Before being labeled cursed, Florence was simply a child's toy, perhaps a cherished companion or a forgotten relic tucked away in an attic. Her initial history would have been personal and tied to her owner's life. Florence's cursed status began when her owner reported increasingly disturbing phenomena associated with the doll. These included the doll seemingly moving on its own, particularly in the attic where she was kept. Unexplained noises, described as soft thuds or even faint whispers, were also attributed to Florence. Overwhelmed and unnerved by these events, the owner decided to part with the doll, eventually placing her in the care of the London dungeon for their cabinet of curiosities. Here, she quickly gained notoriety, with many visitors reporting an unsettling feeling in her presence. The primary cursed events associated with Florence are the direct experiences of her owner, the unsettling movements and the unexplained noises. The London dungeon highlights that Florence was deemed the creepiest cursed object by public vote, suggesting that even viewing her evokes a strong sense of unease in many. While specific incidents of misfortune befalling those who merely observe her aren't widely publicized, the intense negative aura attributed to her and the original owner's experiences are central to her cursed reputation. 1. The Unlucky Mummy, British Museum. This object isn't a full mummy but the elaborately painted wooden lid of an inner coffin or mummy case. It dates back to around 950 BCE and once housed the remains of a woman from a high-ranking priestly family in Thebes, modern-day Luxor. The intricate artwork depicts religious scenes and hieroglyphs intended to aid the deceased in the afterlife. It was likely a cherished and significant artifact for the family and the ancient Egyptian society. The lid was acquired in Egypt, likely in the late 19th century. Stories began to circulate soon after its arrival in England, particularly concerning those involved in its transportation. Tales of accidents, illnesses, and general misfortune plagued individuals who handled or were associated with the artifact. Its reputation grew, fueled by sensationalized newspaper articles and word-of-mouth accounts. It eventually found its place in the British Museum's collection, where it remains a popular, albeit potentially ominous, exhibit. The most dramatic, and ultimately false, rumor was its supposed presence on the Titanic, linking it to the ship's tragic sinking. The alleged curse manifests as a string of unfortunate events befalling those connected to the mummy case lid. One prominent story involves a photographer who took pictures of the lid and reportedly died shortly after. Another tale recounts how a museum employee who brushed against it fell ill. Perhaps the most compelling narrative involves a journalist who wrote about the mummy and subsequently experienced a series of escalating misfortunes, leading him to believe he was cursed. These stories, while difficult to verify, have cemented the lid's reputation as an unlucky object, captivating imaginations for over a century. The very act of possessing or being closely involved with the artifact seems to be the trigger for the supposed curse.